Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of How School Taught Me Recovery. In my last video, I talked about Satir's model of family dynamics, and I talked about self-worth and why that's so important. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about her second aspect of family dynamics, which is communication. And pay attention, guys, because I'm going to be teaching you guys some skills that really helped me in my healing and my recovery. So what is communication? Satir says that communication is the ways people use to work out meaning with one another. And communication is the largest single factor determining what kinds of relationships that a person makes with others and what happens to him or her in the world. That's huge. All communication is learned. By age 5, you have over 1 billion experiences in communication. And I know most of you are older than 5 who are watching right now. So imagine you guys have like billions or trillions of communication experiences. So that's a pretty big thing for us to look at how it's affected your life and how you can use communication as a tool to improve your self-worth, to change the way you look at things, and to become more functional, more effective. I'm starting to sound like a motivational speaker. I think I'd be good at that. So by 5, we've had 1 billion experiences in communication. We've developed ideas about ourselves, which is our self-image. We've developed ideas about what we can expect from others and what's possible or impossible for us to achieve in the world. And unless something powerful changes these things, then that early learning will become the foundation for the rest of our lives. Now, I talked about the difference a little bit between troubled and nurturing families, according to Satir, in my last video. And Satir says that there are 5 patterns of communication that people and families typically use. Now, 4 of them are negative, and 1 of them is positive. So those 4 negative patterns are placating, blaming, computing, and distracting. And these are things that we might choose to do subconsciously. She says that there are ways for us to handle stress and to thwart the rejection from others that we're always so afraid of. So placating, it's basically what we do so other people won't get mad. Oh, I'm sorry. Like, oh, okay, I do that. It's people pleasing. Blaming is what we do so other people may think we're strong. You never do that. It's your fault. Excuse me, I didn't do that. You did. That's blaming. Computing is when we hide behind big words. You know, we speak as if there's really no threat to us because we know all these big words. So I'll give some examples in a few minutes. And the last one is distracting. It's ignoring the threat in hopes that it'll go away. Oh, hey, squirrel! Not exactly, but... So she says that these produce double messages. Because when we're placating, or when we're blaming, or computing, or distracting, we're not showing our true feelings. That's not the real you who's speaking. She says that we learn these to survive in our families, especially in a troubled family. You know, maybe we placate, so hopefully we won't get abused. Or we distract, so that other people will tolerate us. But it's not the real you. You can't express yourself honestly if you're using these negative and ineffective patterns of communication. At the most, maybe you can get by, but you can't really love, you can't really trust, and other people can't really love or trust you because that's not really you who's talking. You're not showing your true feelings. So I'm gonna read you some examples of these negative patterns of communication from Satir's book. And these might seem a little dramatic, but these are just slightly exaggerated ways of that people actually utilize these patterns. So let's pretend that I have just bumped your arm. If I was a placater, I might say, "Oh, please forgive me. I am just a clumsy oaf." This is all straight from her book, okay? If I was a blamer, I'd say, "You guys, I just hit your arm. Keep it in next time so I won't bump it." If I was a computer, doing the computing, I might say, "I wish to render an apology. I inadvertently struck your arm in passing. If there are any damages, please contact my attorney." A distractor. Gee, some guy's mad. Must have got bumped. So as you can see, those are pretty ineffective ways of communication, but people do this all the time. Let's try another example. So I am your father, and you are my son, and there's something wrong in what you, my son, are doing. If I'm a placater, I might say, I'm sorry, gosh, Jim, I'm sorry, please don't get mad. You do okay, it's just, maybe you could just do it like a little bit better, maybe a little better. If I was a blamer, I might say, "What's the matter with you? Don't you know anything, you dumb cluck?" Who says dumb cluck anymore? I don't know. If I was a computer, "We are making a survey of our family efficiency. We find that in this department, namely with you, efficiency is beginning to go down. Would you have any comments to make?" If I was a distractor, say, "Arnold, is your room about the same as Jim's?" No, nothing's wrong. I was just taking a walk through the house. Tell Jim to see his mother." So maybe you'll recognize yourself using one of these patterns. When I was doing it in class, I started laughing because, this is like a lot of drama. But then I was thinking about it and I'm like, hey, I think I'm a distractor a lot of the time. I want people to tolerate me, so I try to be funny and spontaneous, and I won't address the real issue. Or I'm maybe a computer. I try to sound smart so that, people want to be on my side. People are like, "Oh, hey, she sounds smart, So, and also when I was younger, I did do the whole placating thing because it was just a way not to get abused. Like, "Oh, I'm sorry, it's my fault." And then you hope that you won't get hit or yelled at, And like Satir says, we learn these for survival. We usually don't do these on purpose. They just learn patterns. So those are the 4 ineffective patterns of communication. There's one positive and effective pattern, and it's called leveling. And this is also something I learned in my FAMR 296 class, working with people. Now, leveling requires you to be specific. Be straight up. Be honest about what you feel. Be assertive. And being assertive, it means that you express your feelings, but you also are sensitive to the other person's feelings. So it's not being blunt, saying, "Yep, your spaghetti sucks, I hate it." Even though maybe you really do hate the spaghetti, but that's not taking into account the other person's feelings. So you maintain your feelings of dignity with leveling, and you also maintain the other person's dignity. No one's self-worth suffers. Instead, both people's self-worth can improve. So one way of doing leveling is through I messages. And I messages basically follow this pattern. I feel blank when you blank because blank. And when you're leveling like this, you're not blaming the other person for how you feel, which would make them defensive and could lead to a fight. Instead, you're just saying your perspective, the way you see things, and that makes it pretty hard to argue with. So an example might be, in those examples that I already did, when I bumped your arm, instead of saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry," or "Oh, why didn't you just keep your arm in?" If I'm leveling, I'll look directly at you, I'll make eye contact, and I'll say, "Oh, I bumped you. I'm sorry. Are you okay?" Do you see the difference? And the thing where I am your father and the son has a messy room or something, instead of saying, "What's the matter with you? Can't you clean up your room?" Or, "Oh, okay, don't get mad at me, but I think maybe your room isn't the best." I'm leveling. I say, "Jim, your room is in bad shape. You haven't made your bed since yesterday. We need to stop and take a look and see what's wrong and how we can fix this." Now, this is hard to do, and it might feel really uncomfortable. I know for me, I'm not used to saying stuff like, "I feel upset when you don't come home on time," because it makes me feel that you don't care about me, or something like that. Instead of saying, "Why don't you just come home on time?" Or, "I don't care, whatever." You know, those are more natural to me. Just saying my feelings is not natural because I don't expect people to validate my feelings. Hold on. Yeah, so all of these negative patterns are to thwart rejection. Because we might think things like, "Oh, I might make a mistake," or "Someone might not like it," "Someone will criticize me," "Oh, I might be imposing," or "She'll think I'm no good." People might think I'm not perfect, or maybe he'll leave. And as long as we're thinking in these ways, we cannot be effective communicators. And this also signifies that we don't have a high sense of self-worth. So when we can replace this kind of thinking with other kind of thinking that is more kind to ourselves and more realistic, then we're on the right track. And I'll give you an example. Instead of thinking, "I might make a mistake," over time we can reframe this to, "Well, I'm sure to make any mistake if I do anything new." "Oh yeah, but someone might not like it." "Well, I can be quite sure that there will be someone who doesn't like what I do. Not everyone likes the same things." And this also goes back to something that Mr. Higa, who's my absolutely wonderful social work professor, told me. He says, criticism is just someone's preference. That's all. It's a preference. He told us, "I love a good steak and baked potatoes and then some mint chocolate chip ice cream. But maybe someone else would rather have a tofu and vegetable salad. Does that mean salad is good or bad? Does that mean steak is good or bad? No. It just means that my preference is steak, or your preference is tofu and vegetables." It just tells about what the other person likes or dislikes. That's all, not about the value of that actual thing. So this kind of goes to the next one. Someone will criticize me. Yes, someone will criticize me. I'm not perfect. Some criticism is useful. And it's okay. Hey, I might be steak and mint chocolate chip ice cream. You don't like that? Maybe you're just a vegan. That's your problem. Don't get all sassy like that. But if you think that, like, hey, there's nothing wrong with mint chocolate chip ice cream. Not everyone's gonna like it. Some people do like it. That says nothing about the ice cream itself. That only says something about that person's preference. So that can really give you a reality check. I might impose. Sure, every time I speak, I impose. Yeah, she'll think I'm no good. So maybe she'll think I'm no good. Can I live through that? Yes, I can. People will think I'm not perfect. If I think of myself as needing to be perfect, chances are I'll always be able to find imperfection. But he might leave. So he leaves. Maybe he should leave. And anyway, I'll live through it. So this is just some of the things about communication that I've learned from my class. And I encourage you to try leveling. Be assertive. Be specific. Be honest. And you'll find that this can really change things. Remember, you are equal in value to everyone else. And everyone else is equal in value to you. So communicate like you mean it.